to be open to the possibility of what's being offered here, because what you were issued in life, you didn't have any say-so on. And if you have just enough of an opening to consider something novel, you can get this. This game is designed to be played by 13-year-olds. So people come in here in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, and their 50s. There's nothing about the material that they can't grasp. It's just novel. It's something, again, that is available in the commercial marketplace. You're just going to pay through the nose for it. Here you get it for free. And knowing that gives us some degree of leverage to approach the conversation in a way that's beyond transactional. Because we're never going to ask you for anything. But you can't come in here and dictate what this experience is going to be like. That's why your life doesn't work. Your life doesn't work because nobody can tell you shit.
That's right.
You know everything. And you are on a one-way collision to one existential crisis after another. But we understand from the brain science why you're behaving that way. You have to behave that way. It's a survival strategy that's actually killing you.
Yeah.
And that's paradoxical that someone would do something. Well, they don't know that they don't know that. And they don't know that this superstitious mix of insane beliefs that occur as survival traits are killing them. They just know that they're suffering. And we get to that very, very quickly within the first 3 hours. And anyone that has sat through an introduction, when we used to do them publicly at The Ohio State, walks out of that introduction as an observer and says, wow, that is a really novel approach to healing. Well, that's what it takes when you're dealing with something that rises to the level of a pandemic. It has to be novel. If the VA was working, God love those folks, I know they do the best they can, we wouldn't be in business. We wouldn't have a waiting list until next July.
I was going to ask you about the waiting list. You have a waiting list till July.
Yeah. Wow. Now, we can move people up because sometimes folks either won't or can't get a COVID test, or they won't travel, or life comes up and they bail out at the last minute. So we're constantly using an alternate list to move people up, and this is why Hillsborough is so important to us, and this is why it triples our capacity, and this is why having a collaborative is so important. We can take 1,000 people on a year, and you're looking at about 7,300 suicides in the veteran community a year. There's plenty of organizations to spread that lift around in, but that's going to take a clearinghouse of a couple of handfuls of organizations willing to sit at the same table and kind of, language out best practices, and language out some kind of standardized approach to this integrated intensive retreat model. So the language exists for what this is now. We were one of the first movers in the space, but it's been written about, there's white papers, there's great data about the efficacy of this work, but what really, really matters are the next 500 days after you leave Sail the Warrior. And we have a plan for you for each one of those 500 days as a suggested curriculum and course of action.
Outstanding. You had mentioned it costs $3,500 per veteran.
Yeah. With the new facility, we cut about $1,000 off of that at scale.
Nice.
So it's going to be down about $2,500.
But the important thing to know is the at-risk veterans don't pay.
No.
Organizations like us.
Yes.
That you need.
And the DAV.
DAV. Woo! That's a hard one to beat.
But it's a hell of a challenge to try to lean into VSOs in the great Buckeye State.
Wow. Well, that's kind of a challenge to the VFW and American Legion, I think.
Well, you got to do something with that rip ticket money and beer money that your organizations give back to you.
I think
now I'm getting the long, dirty looks from the cats in the seats there.
Yeah, I think the DAV set out a challenge there. I think I'm proud of them.
I think so too. And they've been around for 100 years, like the VFW, like the American Legion, but it is the legacy VSOs that have created this certain listening in America and established a certain credibility for what they contribute. It's time to pivot and get behind the National Center of Excellence. This is the first of its kind for complex PTS in this country, and we are really excited to bring the VSOs down to Hillsborough for them to see the new location, to see where the center is going to be constructed. We have the renderings here, we have the loans already established through the good folks at Park National Bank. We do have about 65% of that capital campaign, 3.25 million raised. Wow. And we are very, very interested, particularly with respect to the VFW in the state of Ohio and the American Legion, to come in and say, what do you need? I need this cottage and I need this cottage. built, and they could almost be notional posts on the facility for our warriors to stay in while they're with us for those 4 days. And those cottages are about $750,000 a piece. I think one should be from the Legion and one should be from the VFW.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And,
sir.
and the great news is you can take up to 5 years for that funding. We have a 10-year note with incredible terms from the folks at Park National Bank. And it really just takes somebody throwing their hat in from these organizations